I am here with the Wolf of Wall Street himself, Mr. Jordan Belfort. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
All right, so let's dive right in. Pretty obvious place to start here. The stock market has been pretty crazy. We've had a wild week here on Wall Street.
Right.
We were way down Monday,
right.
Had some momentum yesterday, and then we closed down a little bit today again. So this volatility, what are your takes here? I mean, do you see this sticking around, and what would you tell investors if you were in their position right now?
I would say to really not worry about it. I think that, you had like 400 days in a row, which is like up, 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 and it's been so amazing. And volatility has been so unnaturally low, and I think this is sort of just a wake-up call that there should be some volatility in the market, and I think that there's people are concerned with the program traders and what does that do, and I think that for most people, unless you're really a professional investor, I don't think you should be trying to time the market that closely. It's so hard, and you're. Most of them are just going to be wrong. It's just the way it is, just so hard. So I really wouldn't look to those instantaneous, like those intraday or like every 3 hours, trying to say, how do I beat the program traders in their own game? You can't. And I think I'd really take a bit more of a longer term view. Not necessarily like I'm talking years out, but just at least months, what I'm saying? Just, don't really try to be a market timer. It's very difficult to do. So I focus more on, A, do you believe in the fundamentals of the companies that you are invested in? And B, do you believe the market as a whole is headed higher? Is the economy dictate higher prices you believe? And this is your own, again, there's no one's got a crystal ball, right? But in terms of just like, the wild fluctuations, well, you couldn't go up from where you were to 26,000 and not be some dramatic pullback and some increase in volatility. So I think it's healthy, it's normal, and I think the market's probably heading higher, but who really knows?
Okay, so do you think those fundamentals behind the stocks are pretty good economically?
Well, I think that the economy itself is very strong right now, and I always laugh when because it's so funny, it's counterintuitive when the economy is so good that, well, oh my God, it means they're going to raise interest rates.
Right,
that means bonds will be more attractive and money's going to flow out of stock. It's so funny when you think of it. But, again, that's that sort of knee-jerk reaction where things happen so fast, and I really don't believe the average investor should try to time those quick radical moves and focus more on, if you're going to play a short-term trade, that's okay, but don't focus on like a day-to-day basis, because it's so hard to do. And you're also against people who have computers that are doing things like, whether it's high-frequency trading or program trading, whatever variety of it is, you're probably going to lose with that game unless you're really wired in.
Okay. So volatility, are we going to see a more volatile year in 2018 than we saw in 2017?
I think that volatility is okay. I think that some amount of volatility. Listen, the VIX has almost become its own asset class. There's so many different variations in the VIX. There's the VIX, there's the inverse VIX, there's the VIX, there's a short-term VIX, the long. It's crazy, right? So, and I think volatility is its own asset class now, and I think that some amount of volatility is okay. And again, it's really, the VIX is, most people, like, they look at it as the fear index, but if you really look at what it is, it can be drawn right back to the S&P and the options that make up the S&P. So I think that, again, you can make money is even trading the VIX, but I think that to be long or short is kind of dangerous. It's really about being more of a value volatility trader, to try to kind of figure out, if you're going to buy expensive insurance and sell cheap insurance, you can make money like that, but you got to know what you're doing.
Okay, so another volatile topic here, Bitcoin.
Crypto.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I know that you are maybe not the biggest proponent of the cryptocurrencies. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think that, listen, I think that there's a major disconnect right now between reality and fantasy when it comes to Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchain technology. So I'm a fan of blockchain technology. I think there are major applications within the financial sector and outside the financial sector. And I think that as it evolves and becomes even more efficient than it appears to be right now, that will really take hold. That has nothing to do with cryptocurrencies, though. This current crop of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and its babies. There's Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash and this one and that one, Litecoin,
it's like
Schmitecoin,
right?
Wolfcoin. I should make Wolfcoin, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? I think they all have zero value, and I think they're going to zero. And I think that it's massive fraud involved in it. And I think as we're seeing now, it's coming out, with this, Tether, which is essentially like the industry, like it's their dollar. So you're supposed to, you use Tether to, like, when you park your money, it's in Tether. Well, they are finding out now that there's probably not, listen, I would say, I know there's not, but you can't, until they come out with the numbers, but I strongly suspect that there's a massive fraud that was instigated there. And it's not just a matter of saying, okay, well, if there's not as much Tether, we have to subtract out $3,000 from Bitcoin. It's not that. It's much worse than that, because what you'll see is that they used Tether to artificially support the market of Bitcoin, thereby dragging in more suckers into the game. Like, it's maintaining the illusion of prosperity, not allowing something to go down that should be going down. And by keeping it up, they bring more people into the game, and that's why they were using Tether. So when Bitcoin should have been crashing, that had going to 16,000. That's a really, so when that comes out, I believe the regulators are going to move incredibly swiftly to, and you see it happening right now. This, the first step is that there's been a sort of an industry-wide coordination of all the banks around the world to de-link their system from Bitcoin.
Right.
That's like step one, isolate the virus. That's what they're doing. And the step two is going to be crush it. And that's my problem with Bitcoin, is I don't think Bitcoin itself is a fraud. I don't. It's what people do to Bitcoin that's a fraud.
Okay.
So I don't think Bitcoin's a fraud. It never was a fraud. It just attracts people, and it lends itself to being manipulated. It lends itself to getting involved in situations that it's being used for money laundering. But right now, what's happened, which is sad, is that unfortunately the millennials who I love, they're my people, but they hate me right now because I'm telling them the truth. They don't want to hear it. I've got hate mail from a lot of them, by the way. Many people that because I came out and said it was at 15,000 sell, and I was right. And I saved these kids, if they would have listened, half their money, right? They hate me for it. They're like, you caused it to go down. This is going to eliminate all the banks from the world. This is the future. I mean, so it's like a religious experience for them. So there's no rhyme or reason. And if you look at a Goldman Sachs, probably the smartest people in the world when it comes to something, what do they say today? They say they're all going to zero.
Exactly.
I mean, you look at Warren Buffett, the smartest investor of all time. What does he say? Worthless.
Yeah.
Paul Icahn, ridiculous. I mean, anyone who knows anything about investing, you look at this stuff, it's insane. And it's riddled with fraud. I mean, you're hearing things like, there's a $542 million hack. I mean, and people are like, oh yeah, the last time I heard of a hack, it's like Die Hard 1 with Bruce Willis. They stole $650 million from like Nakatomi Plaza. What is this? Like, what is it when someone can steal that much money from the exchange? There's no security involved in it. It's bananas. And the other part is this lack of scarcity. And listen, I'd be singing a very different tune if Satoshi, whoever that means, whatever that means, would have patented blockchain technology. Then it would be different. But he didn't, okay, or they didn't, okay? And it's open source. Anybody can use it. So when people say to me, but you don't understand blockchain technology, I'm like, and what does that have to do with the price of cryptocurrencies? It doesn't. In fact, it undermines it, because the fact that there is nothing proprietary, anyone can launch one, and it just dilutes out the whole thing. And I don't think it's a store of value. I mean, store of value, you can't even keep it with someone stealing it from you. How is it a store of value? Yeah. And by the way, if it was really a store of value, when the stock market crashed, Bitcoin went up, or stabilized like gold. Instead, it went down in lockstep. Okay. And so I just think it's a total sham.
So you don't see a future, say, 5 years down the road where we're paying for groceries with Bitcoin?
No, I see a future was paying for groceries with cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Just not any of the ones you see right now. There'll be government-issued cryptocurrencies. Look at it this way, all right? The world exists as it is in 2017 after 3,000 years of hunger and strife and wars and crusades and everything, with bags of gold being exchanged for peace, right? They finally have it so they have control of the money supply, and there's these really sophisticated algorithms they use to increase money supply. You control the money supply, you control people, right? So now the U.S. government and China, and let's forget it. Let them control the money supply. That, in a million years, the governments of the world will never allow the money supply to be back in private hands. So they will. So the better it might be, the more scared they are, they'll shut it down. So I think the governments will regulate it out of business and take the idea for themselves. And I think it's a good thing, because when there's not regulation in financial markets, they run amok. And as you see with Bitcoin, you're about to see even more so the fraud involved, because it's not regulated. It's a very dangerous thing. And so they're isolating it right now. Step 2 is to squash it. That's my strong belief. Okay. So I get out now.
So you mentioned the millennial interest, the millennials who hate you because you said this was going to happen. What has caused this hype? I mean, not only millennials, we've got celebrities and these big names pouring their money in.
It's a lack of money. Okay, well, it's a few things. Number one is that you had some terrible, there was this guy out there who it disgusted me, this guy Altshuler, who was constantly advertising on Facebook. Thank God Facebook was smart enough to stop this. There was fraudulent because it was unregulated. You had fraudulent advertising promising people overnight riches with the next Bitcoin. Then this is the next and you saw things that in the stock market would put you in jail. And it was rampant in Bitcoin. They have things like ICOs. They're IPOs. They're just securities. So you have people issuing unregistered securities. So what happened was, because the SEC is so slow to act, because they're numbskulls, I think, okay? They really do, right? And what they allowed is this huge bubble. So on the way up, all this money was made by just simply a Ponzi scheme. and you had social media fueling this, and then you have the millennials who have no experience in financial stuff. They don't know about bubbles. They don't understand fraud, and unfortunately, I understand it all too well. Okay, I'm not proud of that, but I do. They don't understand just how fraudulent this really is, and they're being sold a narrative of like, you know, this is your chance to take money back from the banksters of the world. They've gotten you into debt. And it's this really weird narrative they believe in that, like, that their problems, their lack of a future that they perceive to have, even though they have an amazing future if they want to work really hard, is because of the current banking system deprives them of their ability to use money in the right way. You know what? It's still going to borrow on their credit cards no matter what. It's a joke. So they've gotten to this narrative where a bunch of these kids made a lot of money really early on in a bubble, okay? And it spread like wildfire through social media. And because the SEC did not regulate this thing soon enough, you had just massive fraudulent advertising going on. The ultimate pyramid scheme, get rich quick using these calls. This is the future. Everything's going to cryptocurrency. They were saying things like, I was saying things, Bitcoin's going to $1 million.
Right.
Now, to an unsophisticated kid who's 20 years old, who has,
making these
I can go get a job and work hard for 20 years, or I could just become a Bitcoin trader and get rich overnight. And he sees his friends that because they just caught the bubble early. So it's almost too enticing, and I fault the SEC for allowing this to happen. They should have stopped this stuff in its tracks a year ago when they saw ICOs. I wrote something to CNBC. I'm friends with one of the producers there, so he'll vouch for me. I wrote him on last week 11 headlines that were going to happen in the next 30 days. 5 have hit so far. One of them was the SEC was going to regulate every ICO as an IPO. They would make them go through registration. Sure enough, yesterday, now in their infinite idiocy, the SEC, they still gave enough positive sound bites. So you know what's happening today? All the crypto people saying the SEC's behind us.
They're all up today.
Yeah, because of the SEC. They're so stupid, the SEC. They're so stupid, they don't understand that although when they say we're going to regulate cryptos and make them go through registration, that's a death blow to cryptos. They can't go through registration. That means you have to have 10Ks, 10Qs, audits. Okay, so but they don't understand. What they do is they create enough sound bites that they misuse that information. Now it's all over. The SEC's behind us. Cryptos are going to be the future. Even the SEC is saying right now that cryptos are going to be they're going to take over the dollar. They're going to displace everything, and Bitcoin will be $1 million. And here's the irony: if Bitcoin is really a currency, why would it be any better in $1 million or 5? If it was a currency, it doesn't have to go up to be efficacious to be used as a currency. Why the appreciation? There is no, it's not useful as a currency if it appreciates like that. So it's not a currency. What it is, honestly, it's a gigantic, the guy from the Settlement Bank said it best. It's a combination of a bubble, a Ponzi scheme, and an economic disaster wrapped up into one. And the Chinese are very smart because they just say, you know what, this is bad, it's risky. Whoop, up goes the firewall, game over in China.
Okay.
In one swoop, China cuts it out, right? The U.S. not that smart. We'll allow people to get, farmers in the Midwest, moms and pops are going to get destroyed in this. And you know what? The smart people that are perpetuating the fraud, they're going to sell out at the top and they're going to leave everyone holding the bag.
Right.
It's really sad.
So, I mean, is there a cryptocurrency that's a pump and dump type scheme?
They're all, to me, they're not, okay, so at this point in time, the money's been made in Bitcoin already. It's high up there. You're not going to make money. So if you're in the middle of the crypto game right now, okay, and you're looking to make money, the guys that are really committing the fraud, the only way to do it is you need to issue a new currency at the bottom and ride it up. So what they'll do, but they need to do that. To keep issuing new cryptos, they have to keep Bitcoin up high enough so people still believe in cryptocurrency. So they create the illusion of prosperity. This is what I did. I'm sad to say. This is what I did at Stratton. You keep the old ones up high enough so people still believe in the overall system, and they launch the next one, and that's where they make their money. So they keep launching new ones because that's how you don't make money on days of Bitcoin making money are over for the scamsters. It's already where's it going to be now? It's 8,000. It can go up to 10, back to 2. I think it's going to 0 pretty quickly. But besides that, the only way to make money is to create a new supply of some new cryptocurrency, and then by keeping the old ones high enough, people will dump even more money into the new ones, and they make their money on that.
Okay.
It's pure fraud, and and I feel so because the millennials, these kids they're not breaking the law. They're not trying to commit fraud. They're being taken for a ride right now, and they've been sold a bill of goods. And I hope that I'm trying to wake a lot of them up right now, and they'll hate me now. They're going to love me in a few months from now. Listen, I told them last week to get out at 15,000, and I got a lot of thank you letters that people did sell when it went down to as low as 6,000, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure that when the crap really hits the fan. In the short, and we'll hit, because listen, when Tether's going to get on, it's going to find out that Tether doesn't exist or it's half of it's missing, and it's just going to, and they're going to come in, the FBI's going to swoop in, the SWAT teams, it's going to be really bad stuff, and you're going to find out that it was even worse than I ever imagined, because that's how these things are. When you have an unregulated market, where there's no, I mean, it attracts the worst people. So all these millennials, they're lovely. I love them. It's not your fault, but there's a lot of really bad people at the center of this thing that are setting you up, and you're going to get caught holding the bed. They call them hodlers. Hold on for dear life until you want to kill yourself, basically. So, you know.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit here to President Trump's economy.
Yeah.
You know, this was a huge part of his State of the Union, and we've gotten all these tweets about how strong the economy is. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of gotten a lot quieter on the White House front since the markets have kind of taken this downturn. What do you have to say about that?
I think that I'm a fan of Trump. I am. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he says, which I think is I hate some of the stuff he says. Okay, I don't think he means a lot of it. I think it's like he's almost like the unfunny comic. Like anyone else could say it, it would be okay. Like Obama said what he said, and everyone loved it. They clap. He says they hate him, right? But in terms of the policies per se, and minutiae, I think there's some very smart stuff they've done. Very, very smart stuff. The problem, the mistake is you can never link your success to the stock market because there is no linkage. The stock market goes up, it goes down. It has no, there's no rhyme or reason sometimes. So, you know, while it's very nice to say the stock market's going up, you're going to love your 401k. I'm sorry, Mr. President Trump, but it's just dangerous because then when it goes down, what do you say? The economy is no weaker today than it was 5 days ago. In fact, it's probably even stronger. I think the policies he put into place with money were very, very smart, and you're seeing that. And I think also what people don't get about Trump, which I really respect, and I didn't like him a lot in the beginning, but I've grown to like a lot of things he does. And one thing, he's an amazing cheerleader for the country. Like he looks into the camera and says, you're capable of achieving what you want. Go out there, work hard. And that's great to do that. That's what people need to hear. They want their president being a cheerleader for them, for the country. And I think that's really important. That combined with the right economic policies and the right tax structure and the right trade deals, I hope he does that as well, is great for the economy. And of course, that means, oh wait, it's too good. That means they're going to raise interest rates. Wall Street gets, so you can't link it to the stock market. It's just too dangerous.
Okay,
you know?
Okay. So kind of another forward-looking question here. Is there a sector, a name, something in the stock market that you're really excited about, optimistic about, looking forward to the next, say, year and a half?
It's not Bitcoin, no. Listen, I don't want to recommend specific stocks. I'm a big believer. I think AI has got a huge future. I really do. And I think that I really look for companies that that have. I think the key to the AI is not, if you're going to look. Not is the big companies working on, but it's hard to invest in the big ones like Google. They're in a million things, right? But for the smaller companies, I look for them. To me, businesses succeed or fail based on the management. People who are running them. You know what I'm saying? Everyone has got good ideas, and typically the ones who make those into real businesses are the operators. So I really look very closely at the management teams of if you find the companies that you like and see who are the investors. You know, typically if you put your money alongside the smartest institutional investors, you'll probably do pretty well. But I don't want to get specific with making a recommendation.
So would you recommend to, say, a retail individual investor to kind of follow those institutional leads?
I do, but as long as you say retail, I have to say Amazon. I mean, listen, I love Amazon, I really do. And you know what I love about Amazon? I hate them and love them at the same time because I can't believe what they did, but I have to my hats off to Jeff Bezos. I mean, the amazing about Jeff Bezos is he thought so long term. And that is to be commended. To have that much conviction in your vision, it's an amazing thing to be that, and not, I wouldn't even say smart. He's certainly smart, but to have that much conviction to go with it, right? But the great thing is, like, I had a real problem with Amazon, the other day, where like I used their services and I had Prime Video and I just couldn't get it to work. And I sent them an email saying, I love your stuff, but this is ridiculous. And you know what? They responded to me within 30 seconds. A phone number, call us up. We want to speak to you as a live individual. And I was like, wow. I'm like.
It's much better than getting a robot.
I'm like, that is a company. And then I realized, you know what? That's why Amazon is awesome, because you know what? If I try to, and I love Apple too, but I can't get in touch with Apple or Facebook. There's no one to speak to. With Amazon, they said, no. They said, we care about your problem, and we're on it right now, and we want to speak to you to help you solve and walk you through. I was like, whoa. I'm like, that to me.
Goes back to the management too.
And then that's management. So I would never bet against Amazon on anything.
Okay. So kind of to wrap up here, what's next for the Wolf of Wall Street? What are you excited about right now?
It's not Bitcoin. Next, well, listen, great. I always do my seminars around the world, right? I have one coming up in New York in a couple weeks, which I'm excited about, February 22nd. I'm going to be teaching the straight line system, sales and persuasion, entrepreneurship. And I love doing that. It's like my passion, and people get massive value. So I'm still doing that. And I'm actually thinking about starting my own radio show. I've gotten a bunch of offers, and I've had them for a long time, and I was always shied away from it because what you do is very hard. You got to, I mean, every day you got to be on. You got to look nice. You know what I'm saying? I got to do my hair too. Like you know, I always want to do.
So that's why you go on radio, not TV.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, well, well, let me say, radio / on video too, because you got to repurpose it these days to go online. So you got to look good no matter what, right? So I'm thinking about doing something there, where my own radio / TV show.
And what would that kind of center on? Is it more investment or your
combination of things? Okay. I think it's almost like a sort of a little investment stuff, a little politics, a little anything, a little life lessons. You know, one of my strengths is I know a lot of irrelevant things. So a lot about relevant things too. So I'm really passionate about politics. I'm really passionate about investing, but not giving people investment advice. And I'm not, boy, I can do that if I want to. It's not my past. I just don't think it's about that. It's about empowering people to go out there and do research and make their own decisions and essentially talk about some of that stuff, trends in the economy. And also, I really want to empower the millennials. And I'm so upset about this Bitcoin. I've never sold Bitcoin. I never owned it. I almost mined it, but in 2012, I almost mined it. I got an offer, I was gonna actually back them. I didn't do it, because I didn't understand it fully. I researched it, and I got myself, I said, I don't think with me, I don't think I'm the right guy, because it's money laundering. I said, I don't wanna even put my name to that as money laundering. It was a bad thing, right? So I didn't do it. But like with Bitcoin, for instance, I'm passionate because I feel terrible because I think these kids are going to get destroyed. I know they're going to get destroyed. So I want to help these millennials emerge essentially into real adulthood. They're adults now, but into the real world. Help them with things like whether it's finance, politics, to be a voice of reason and to be an independent, not a Republican, not a Democrat, just trying to be an honest person. Because I was raised liberal. I have some very liberal views and I have some very conservative views when it comes to finance, but very liberal when it comes to sort of, so I view myself as I'm right. Okay, no, but I respect everyone's views is the point. So it'll be something like that.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to it, and thank you so much for joining us today.